The new CFO had called me into the boardroom like he was delivering a death sentence. He didn't even sit properly, just leaned back in his chair with that smug little smirk on his face. His words came out sharp and cold, "Your strategy is outdated. We need you gone by tomorrow." Just like that, years of dedication, long nights, and sacrifices were dismissed with a single breath. He thought he was crushing me. He thought his power was absolute. But instead of exploding or begging, I just smiled, thanked him for the opportunity, and walked out calmly. That calmness confused him, and in time, it would haunt him. To understand why this moment mattered, you have to know what I had built before he arrived. I wasn't just an employee. I was one of the original minds behind the strategies that kept the company afloat during its darkest days. I had helped land clients that carried us through recessions, streamlined processes that saved millions, and fought battles with competitors that everyone else thought we'd lose. But to him, none of that mattered. He was new, shiny, fresh from some big-name firm with credentials stamped all over his resume. He walked in like a king surveying peasants, treating the people who had kept the company alive as if we were obstacles to his greatness. I went home that night, not angry, not devastated, but strangely calm. On the surface, I looked like a man who had just been defeated, but inside, gears were turning. You see, I had something he didn't know about. I had leverage. I knew every deal, every hidden corner of the business, and every client who trusted me personally. And while he thought he could cut me loose without consequence, what he didn't realize was that those same clients weren't loyal to the company. They were loyal to me. My name, my strategy, my work. Not his. The next morning, I walked into the office to clear my desk. People whispered. Some gave me sympathetic looks, others pretended not to notice. But the CFO watched me from the glass wall of his office, waiting for me to break. Instead, I carried myself with dignity. I shook hands, thanked colleagues, and smiled. But as I walked out for the last time, I caught his eye. He looked confused, almost unsettled. He had expected bitterness, anger, maybe even begging. Instead, I left as if I was already holding a secret victory. What he didn't know was that I had been preparing for something like this. I had quietly built relationships with industry contacts, with potential investors, and with former colleagues who had left the company because of toxic leadership. They respected me, they trusted me, and when they heard what had happened, they were furious on my behalf. Calls started pouring in. If you're thinking of starting something new, count me in. You've got my backing. Let's build something better. It was like a fire ignited overnight. And suddenly, what had seemed like a crushing defeat became the perfect opportunity. I spent weeks drafting plans, meeting people in quiet cafes, holding late-night calls, and slowly putting together the foundations of a new firm. Not just any firm, but one designed to go head-to-head with the company that had just thrown me away. I knew their weaknesses, their blind spots, the inefficiencies the CFO was too arrogant to see. He thought he was revolutionizing the business, but in truth, he was dismantling systems that had held everything together. He was cutting costs in the wrong places, driving away talent, and bragging to the board about short-term gains while planting seeds of long-term failure. I didn't need to sabotage him. He was doing that all on his own. All I had to do was be ready to scoop up the pieces. Within 6 months, my new company launched. Lean, innovative, agile. Clients who had once worked with me at the old firm quickly followed. They didn't even hesitate. "We trust you, not them." That was all they needed to say. Every time we landed a new deal, every time a client jumped ship, I thought about that smug smirk in the boardroom. And I smiled. But the real satisfaction came when the numbers started speaking louder than words. Our growth was explosive. The old company's decline was inevitable. The CFO, meanwhile, was scrambling. Reports from people inside told me he was furious, paranoid, shouting in meetings as client after client disappeared. He tried to blame the team, tried to blame market conditions, but the board wasn't stupid. They had seen my departure. They had seen his arrogance. And they couldn't ignore the fact that the company was bleeding money and prestige while my new firm was thriving. The whispers reached me eventually, board members regretting letting him push me out, investors questioning his leadership, staff quietly polishing their resumes. He had tried to erase me, but instead he had made me stronger. The moment that sealed everything came a year later. We were invited to pitch for a massive client, one that the old company had been banking on to save their declining revenues. I walked into that boardroom, not as an employee this time, but as the CEO of a rival company. And there he was, sitting across the table, eyes widening as he realized who he was up against. I will never forget that look. Shock, disbelief, and then pure fear. Because in that instant, he knew he had made the biggest mistake of his career. We delivered our pitch, polished and confident, and by the end of the meeting, it was clear the client was with us. They barely glanced at him or his team. The deal was ours, and as I shook hands with the client, I made sure to glance back at him. That same glassy-eyed panic from the day I left was back, but this time, magnified 100 times over. The revenge wasn't loud, it wasn't messy, it was elegant, precise, and devastating. In the months that followed, the old company collapsed under his leadership. The board fired him, of course, but it was too late to repair the damage. My company, on the other hand, soared. Every time I saw another headline about their decline, every time I signed another client who had once sat in their portfolio, it felt like justice had been served. The CFO had underestimated me, disrespected me, and thought he could erase my years of work with one smug sentence. Instead, he handed me the chance to build something greater than I ever imagined. Looking back, the lesson is simple. Never underestimate the quiet ones, the ones who walk away without a fight. Sometimes calmness isn't defeat, it's preparation. Revenge doesn't always come in the form of angry words or dramatic gestures. Sometimes it's success, growth, and thriving in the face of those who tried to break you. And in the end, nothing tastes sweeter than watching arrogance destroy itself while you rise higher than ever.